What is product management and what actually a product manager do?
To identify the problems which are currently existing within the business and to figure out which is the right way to solve that particular problem, which will impact in the user's life.
How do you define the vision for this product?
Long-term vision, we would be looking into small MVP release of the product, which will be having problems which needs to be solved at prior.
What factors will you look for differentiating our product with our competitors?
On what features are existing in the market, what can make us stand apart, what is the problem that is not existing in the market and which is very necessary to be solved.
How do you estimate the budget needs of a specific product with the limited information?
We would go to developers and ask that how much is the effort do you think is needed for this feature to be built, and also similarly we will be having the conversation with the designers as well.
How do you identify which problems are worth solving?
We would be able to identify that these kind of problems would be asked by the users repeatedly.
How do you monitor your product performance after launching the product?
And we rely upon certain platforms to understand how well these features are performing.
So what ethical considerations will you take while you are developing your product? These days we are using multiple digital products. So to create these digital products from scratch, we need people from multiple domains. We need people from IT sector, we need people from design sector, we need people from finance sector, we need people from marketing sector, we need people from sales sector. Like this, we need people from multiple sectors. So to manage all these people, we need a manager, right? Yes, there is a manager who manages all these people. So we call him as a product manager. So the guest for today's podcast has a quite different journey into product management. So the guest for today's podcast is Gokul Rajenan, where he completed his Masters in Design from IIT Hyderabad, which is a premier institution in the country. During his college placements, he got placed at Kore.ai as a product designer. Then he got interest in product management. Then he shifted his career to product management. So in this podcast, we will dive into his complete journey. We will find out how his thought process will look like, and also we will talk about his complete journey. So if you are someone who are preparing for product management roles, make sure you watch this entire podcast. So without any further ado, let's get started. So hi Gokul bro, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, happy to be part of this podcast. It is nice meeting you as well.
Yeah, same here bro. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. I hope we are planning this podcast from a couple of months. So finally we are doing, I was so excited for this podcast. So without any further ado, we will directly jump into the podcast. So Gokul bro, we will start this podcast with your introduction. So can you briefly introduce about yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually from Kerala, born and brought up there. And then I was more into art, design and all. Then my background and everything is related to design. Then after working in the company, as you mentioned, in the Kore.ai as a product designer, then the company suggested that whether you would like to go and change your career direction towards a manager. That's where I'm right now. So I'm currently working as a product manager. Short intro about me.
So bro, we will start this podcast with a very basic question, and which is a fundamental question for product management. So according to you, what is product management and what actually a product manager do?
So according to me, what is product manager means is to identify the problems which are currently existing within the business and to figure out which is the right way to solve that particular problem, which will impact in the user's life as well as bring in more business to the company.
So bro, if you look into the processes, or if you look into some methodologies, as you did your masters in design, you follow some pattern in your design process. So in addition to that, we have to add a few more steps in this product management. So what was your product management step by step process from scratch to like a final product?
Okay. Scratch to final product. I just want to give you an idea on what product I'm currently working on, and then I'll come into this answering this question because we could say in we could say that in two different ways. Because if it is a new product, there is a process which we need to follow. We call it as 0 to 1. And if it is a already existing product which has 1 to 10, because the MVP is something that we call it as 0 to 1, and 1 to 10 is a product which is already existing in the market, which is slowly evolving. So currently I'm working on a product which is already there in the market and improving the experience there. And coming to the question which you asked, what all things changed in the process? See, in the design, I get what needs to be done from the product manager, where I need to solve the problem how when it comes to the UI part, what needs to be put where, what kind of creative decision that I can bring in, but I won't be looking into the business aspect of it. Right now, I need to understand, okay, if I'm building this feature, if this particular feature comes into existence, what kind of impact is it going to bring in for the business? So, kind of one step behind, like I would say that something happening behind the screen where you need to analyze whether this is needed for the product, whether it is feasible or not. If I'm bringing that into the product, then what all constraints are there, how I need to package it in a way that, let's say, I'm coming with a full-fledged feature, it will take a lot of time. Then I need to make it in a way that it phases out, phase 1 2 3, in three different phases. I'll release small chunk of this product. So these kind of strategical decisions, that are something that got added into the process. Along with that, whatever process that we were following in the design, which is also existing, but more of in the business aspect of the product.
For example, let us assume a new product, so it will be easy for you to give the answers and it will be easy for me to follow up your answers. We are building a healthcare product, so in which we can book outpatient OP appointments in the hospital through our digital product. So that is the product of ours. So now we will discuss about your process based on this product. So first we will talk about the user research you have to conduct before starting any of your process. So for example, if we talk to like a few customers, or if we hire a few customers, they don't observe like whether they are facing any problems or not. So as a designer or as a product manager, we have to understand their problems. So to understand the problems, like how will you find the pain points of your customers?
We are bringing in something new to the market, which is currently not existing. That is the assumption that we are taking. Let's say there is nothing else for this particular question. So understanding the pain points. So first we need to analyze that whether this product is relevant in the market or not, whether it is going to bring in the business. That is the first step that we would be taking, like whether this problem really impacts the user base or not. That would be the first phase. Then second one, this can be validated in many places. Maybe you can do a research in the Google. Now we have a lot of AI platforms which will sum it up and give you all the data whichever is existing in the web, and from that you will get basic idea on what all hiccups are there, and what we need to understand is where we are going to implement this geographical impact. Let's say if it is India, it would be having many other problems which are not there in US, UK. So we also need to identify where is this product going to exist. Based on that, again we need to narrow down the area where we are going to implement, and based on which we will do the user research. Again, we also need to identify the target audience. Who are we capturing to? Whether it is a very young audience, then how it needs to look. Whether it is aged people, then how is it going to be? Whether they are able to access this technology or not. All these things, like, because at the end of the day, mediums change based on their target audience also. If it is a youngster, people who are like you and me, it is very accessible that if I build a digital product, it is easy for them to understand, navigate. If it is for a younger generation, they would like it in a very fashionable way, I would say, like little bit of vibrant colors, like perspective change over things. That's what I just wanted to convey. Along with that, we would be having questionnaires asking around people with that demographic to understand what are the pain points that they are going through, and based on which we'll figure out the solution.
So, in this question only, you have said that if we take a specific region, like we have to narrow down to a specific region, then we have to conduct the user interviews or user research. So, in order to conduct user research, basically what we do is we take people from diverse groups, not in a like a specific group. We take people from diverse groups. So each one will give like a different answers to our questions. So, like, how do you manage the feedbacks which were given by people from different segments? Like, how do you manage them?
Yeah, nice question though. So, in this scenario, what happens is that people tend to answer it in a way that so we can categorize the questions itself into two different ways. One is very descriptive. One would be answered with one word answer. So, the intention for us to prepare the questionnaire would be like in a way that it makes them tell the problem. So rather than asking yes or no questions, so if you're asking yes or no questions, they will say, do you have a problem? I'm asking this to someone. They would in fact say yes, even when there is no problem existing within that system. Sometimes it'll give you both answers, yes and no. And like it'll be like 50% of the people said yes, 50 people said no. Now I'm confused on what exactly is the problem existing, whether the problem is valid or not. Those kind of confusion arises. So instead of that, we need to ask questions which makes them explain exactly what is the experience that they are going through, which will in fact help and help us understand what are the very specific problems that are with existing. Okay, along with that, one other trick that we can do is like in the interviews, what we do is like take a small pauses. Okay, this is a trick. Okay, so when you take a small pause, what happens to the other person is that they have this thought going in mind that I didn't answer correct, or did I say something wrong, or is he expecting something. So that dead air concept actually helps them to say more. In that way also, like, you can get to know what all other problems are there, because in some interviews what happens is that we rush through and they'll answer quickly if we don't give that time. So in these kind of like small yeah, kind of instances, that yeah, I could say that in that way we could get to know what is the underlying problem.
Okay, so finally, you have decided your problem statement. Now we have to draw a few strategies upon this problem. Like as a product manager, like you have to define the goals to the developers and designers, something, etc. Like how do you define the vision for this product?
Long-term vision, we would be like looking into small MVP release of the product, which will be having problems which needs to be solved at prior, and we can test it out and see how it is impacting the users, and then slowly add more problems which we were able to identify in the earlier stage. so that we would be able to scale the product. So one other thing that we need to understand is in the business, it's always about scalability. So initially, even if you are bringing up with a small feature, but going down the line, what can be added along with that. So here we would be having a roadmap, understanding what needs to be built first, what needs to be built next, and after that. Uh, in a way that example that I could tell is like WhatsApp. Initially, it was just a chat platform. Now it has communities, it has groups, it has stories, and many other features came along when it was progressing through. Similarly, like even for outpatient booking platform, it would be just primarily just a booking platform there. It can slowly move into consultation. Again, more features can be added on. A data repository on wherever you consulted, everything can be brought in together. Just giving you a bunch of ideas how it can scale.
Before developing or before designing something, we have to see the competitors in our industry, because these days, for each and every sector and for each and every product, there are so many tons of competitors are there. Like, what factors will you look for differentiating our product with our competitors?
To understand the competitors, we would be like doing a primary research on what features are existing in the market, what are they providing, what can make us stand apart, what is a problem that is not existing in the market and which is very necessary to be solved, which is where we might need to start building on, because that will make us stand apart. Along with that, we will be building features which are being offered by the other competitors as well, along with new areas which can be plugged in into these features which will improve their experience. That is how we can stand apart from the competitors, and along with that we would be able to scale the product.
So, bro, finally, you have decided the problem statement, and you have drawn a few strategies to work on this product. And now it's time for the timeline. So, as a product manager, you have to give the timeline for developers as well as designers. So, how do you decide the timeline for a product which you actually don't know how much time it will take?
So currently, since I'm working on a product which is already in the market, how the process goes in the area that I'm working in is like in this way, that we would be planning a problem and coming up with a solution which will be handed over to the dev team, while explaining it to them that this is the problem and this is the solution that we are trying to solve, all these things, and then it'll get developed and then we'll do the testing. So this whole thing happens within a span of 1 month, and there would be some features which will be going overboard. Maybe it'll take more than that. The If you look into a MVP based product, it's all about how fast you want to develop and what you need to develop. And you also need to understand how big of a competition is there, how fast you want to go into the market. So these kind of factors impact on deciding the timeline. So if I have a bigger team and money to invest, so it will be easier for me to bring in that MVP in a quicker pace. But as I mentioned, certain factors that impact the business, which will be also be taken into account when deciding this timeline.
So, bro, finally, you have decided the timeline, and now you have to allocate the budget within the timeline to developers as well as designers. So, how do you estimate the budget needs of a specific product or a specific project with a limited information? We don't have a complete information about the product, but we will have a limited information about the product. How do you estimate the budget for that product?
Basically, I am assuming that budget, meaning that the effort that they need to put in to bring out this feature. So because usually people think that budget means cost, but people are close to the industry, they would be able to understand what budget means. So I just wanted to tell that out. So here we would do an initial analysis on how much effort is needed in terms of designing the product and as well the development. So in that terms, we would get an idea on how much effort is needed to build that particular feature. Even though this is made on a particular assumptions that we come across, we would go to developers and ask that how much is the effort do you think is needed for this feature to be built. And also similarly, we would be having the conversation with the designers as well. So which will give us more clarity on how much time is it gonna take to finish up that particular feature or the product. That is how we go forward with it. Initially, me being a designer coming into product manager, so even I thought that budget means cost. So I was like blown out of my mind that okay, budget, what budget should I think of, how will I budget for this particular feature, because I have no clue on like bringing in the cost factor into developing a feature. So I was also going and asking my peer group that how will I understand the budget. So then I could understand that budget means cost of development. It's like how much effort is needed, how much time is needed for designing it. So that is what is budget in terms of product management, I would say.
Now we will talk about a few ideation process. So as I said in the previous questions, like we have multiple problems, n number of problems. So from the 10 number of problems, we will narrow down like a few problems. So out of those problems, like we have to ideate like a n number of solutions to it. So like how do you identify like which problems are worth solving?
You would be able to identify that these kind of problems would be asked by the users repeatedly, and complaining that this is one problem that is I am facing continuously. And when you look into the competitors, there also you will find evidence that how they have solved that problem, or whether they didn't solve for it because it was not in line with their business strategy, or um, uh, yeah, business strategy, and how they are going forward with whether it is part of their core area of the product or not. So this will give us the idea whether to go forward with building a feature or not. And apart from that, again, since we talked about the strategy that we use, this comes into play to understand whether it is impactful, how much effort is needed. So, same thing. I don't think that I need to explain that again, because it might be repetitive.
So now it's time for the design. As you are a UI UX designer or product designer before, I hope you know pretty much about design. Like basically, as a product manager, you have to collaborate with the UI UX designers. So like, how do you collaborate with the UI UX designers for ensuring like a very good user experience in your product?
So one thing that I'm able to do is like, since I am part of I was part of the design ecosystem as well as now part of management ecosystem. I'm able to understand what can be done within a speculated time, how much effort the designers need to bring in. That is one clarity that I got when I moved to a management role, because being a designer, I was not able to comprehend on um, how the development or the behind the screen things happen. Because for us, it is easy to build stuff in Figma or whatever the platform people are using as of now, and it feels like it is easy to build such scenarios as well. But when it comes to reality, there would be a lot of impact because the product is already built on certain architecture and many other reasons. So now, being a product manager, it is very easy for me to communicate to designers that how they can work on particular designs, whether they have to add in more effort to this particular feature, or maybe it is something very simple and that's how we are trying to solve it, so don't go overboard. It makes the iteration process of the designers a little bit less when it comes to simple solutions that we are proposing, and we won't be going overboard with that. If it is something new, they want to we want to improve the whole experience. We would be sitting together, brainstorming, understanding the problem. They would be coming up with different solutions. We would find out the problems with that, whether it is implementable or not. In that way, it helps us to work in a very cohesive manner, which is helping both of us, me being a manager and being a designer who is there in the team. And to sum it up, I would say that it is very easy for me to communicate to them.
Okay, so finally, the development part is also done, and now you have to test the product. So, like, how do you define like what needs to be tested once you release the product?
Mhm. So currently, what we do in our platform is we have a dedicated team for that, quality assurance. So what they do is they develop test case scenarios and what all scenarios would be coming in. From our end, what we do is like we would be having a section called acceptance criteria, where we would explain certain areas that needs to be fulfilled for this particular feature to be like pushed to the product after the development. So they would also be try to understand if they have any queries. They'll come to us, ask us, what is this primarily about. We will have a conversation. Or else, if everything is going very smoothly, they would be building up these test case scenarios, and they would be testing it in all these scenarios to understand we have whether we have like completely developed the product, or are we lacking some gaps in the feature. So that is how the testing process works as of now.
Okay, so finally, you have tested the product, and now you have to deploy your product to the server. Like, what steps will you take in order to deploy your product smoothly and with low risk?
So, in terms of deployment, what happens is that there would be different stages where developers would be developing it in a local, like where the app would be running on his laptop, let's say that. And he would be working on that, and then he'll also be testing it out to see whether everything has been done. Then it will be moved to a testing environment where the testing would be done, and it will be further moved to a staging environment, and then it will get pushed to a production environment. Production environment is something that is accessible to the people like who are using the product, so that in these areas, since we are doing multiple checks, it will reduce the factor on when it comes to the production environment. So it will be reduced, but we can't say that like we are completely 100% foolproof, because once in a while we would find some bugs, some edge case scenarios that we never anticipated. So those kind of scenarios might come for sometimes. So that is how we plan of going with a low risk development. Along with that, to add a one more level of check, what we do is like we will do a sanity check. We'll sit along with the QA team, quality assurance team, to understand that whether they have touched all the points or not, and how they have tested. We would try to analyze that as well. So in certain features they might need to test it in a different perspective as well. So if they haven't done that, we would just nudge them towards that, so they'll also do that, and we would also be like sure that okay, everything will run smoothly. So this gives you confidence that you wouldn't face any hiccups after it goes into the production environment.
So finally, you did lot of checks before sending it to the production team, and after like a lots of checks, you send it your code to production team, and finally your product is completely launched. And like, how do you monitor like your product performance after launching the product?
So in terms of B2B, where I'm currently working on, we rely upon certain platforms to understand how well these features are performing, based on which we would be able to understand how impactful the decision was. In terms of B2C, you would be able to understand what kind of metric did that particular feature bring in and what kind of business came in. And for the people who doesn't know what is B2B and what is B2C, B2B is business to business. Basically, a business would be providing a service to another business, which wouldn't be something that is for a common person. B2C is something, B2C means business to consumer, where it is like an app that we are accessing on a daily basis. For example, Swiggy, Zomato, WhatsApp, Instagram. So, like that.
So, bro, after launching our product, we will get data from the people. So, we have to make sure that data should be safe and secure, because these days there are a lot of threat happening to the digital data. So, what ethical considerations will you take while you are developing your product?
So based on different regions, there are a lot of compliances that a company needs to follow. So I'll just say out certain very few of them. So there is a GDPR compliance, there is a HIPAA compliance. So these kind of compliances are there which needs to be followed, which will help the users understand that okay, we are compliant to these, and we are not going to use your data, certain like that. So these kind of validation gives them the trust over the product that okay, they are doing ethical practices. And also like to also to consider that we also will be following practices which will give accessibility to all kind of audience. There would be certain people who are color blind, so we need to maintain the contrast of the product in a way that it is visible for them. So there are multiple cases that we can take and discuss upon, which would be taking up a lot of time, but just to sum it up, these are certain areas that we can briefly discuss and say that what we follow.
So, bro, let us assume a person like who are preparing for like a PM role interviews. So, like he was preparing for the interviews. So, for him, like, what is the advice you will give to him?
So interviews, primarily what you have to do is like keep a open mind on how you will be solving the problem and what kind of impact will be brought in. So basically, it would be kind of a assumption based problem statement that would be given to you, and you might need to solve it. And again, whatever we discuss over the time is something that might be asked on how will you resolve a issue within the team. Let's say you went forward with the development and things didn't go ahead, or some other problems came in between. How will you handle that? Or maybe it is like a customer is coming in between the development phase where they are pushing and saying that they need something to be developed very fast and which is very necessary for them. How will you handle that? Let's say there is a as we talked about the budgeting, if there is a team which is very small and but you have to develop something within a very short span of time, how will you handle that? So these kind of areas is where you need to focus on, and try to figure out how you can answer these questions. How will you manage multiple departments? And it's not about just you working on something, writing a feature and then finishing it up. It's all about communicating well with others, making them understand what is necessary, what is needed for the whole feature to be developed, what is the solution that we are looking for, why are we doing this, and also like explaining things to marketing team, or what does this do, giving demos. So I'm explaining certain things which are not part of the interview as well, just to give you a wholesome idea on like these are the areas that you can look into, so you'll get a gist of area that you can be prepared when it comes to interviews.
Gokul bro, once again, thank you so much for giving your valuable time, and you have shared plenty of information to my audience. Thank you so much once again.
Right. I'm happy to be part of this podcast. It's always happy to give back to the community, make them understand, because everyone is learning. I'm also a person learning on a day-to-day basis. It's all I tend to keep things open. So if anyone wants to reach out, know more about these things, please feel free to. And it was a lovely session with you, Joshua. Looking forward to collaborate in many other platforms and future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So this is all about how to build a digital product from scratch. So if you like this podcast, give it a like, and please share your thoughts in the comment section, and I will keep on uploading these kind of podcasts in the future. So if you want to be notified, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications just by hitting that bell icon. So this is your Joshua Kumlakar signing off.